Okay, hello everyone once again. I'm Pranshu and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I hope you're all well and keeping safe. I will quickly introduce WalkingTree for anyone joining us for the first time, and then we can get on with the agenda of the main meeting. Sibu, if you could just move to the next slide, please. Right. So, WalkingTree is a technology focused company with our core focus on designing and building cross platform web and mobile applications, perform system integrations, enable digital transformation. We also specialize in data integration, data analytics, migration from legacy to modern systems, cloud migrations, and of course, perform UX design. Now, apart from end-to-end application development, we also provide custom solutions to enterprises for web and mobile, very specific services within the software development cycle, UI, UX design, microservices, DevOps, and cloud. Our flexible staff augmentation services provide clients with on-demand skills and resources to help meet organizational and business objectives. Lastly, we also help you to implement certain solutions like employee assessment. We also are one of the key partners for implementation of Digit, which is an open source platform for urban governance. Now, today's webinar has two presenters. Suman is the Vice President Engineering here at WalkingTree. He has a total experience of over 14 years in designing technology architecture and guiding teams in agile technologies. His core strength is strategic planning and project management. We also have Subbu with us, who is a full stack developer with an experience of almost close to 10 years now. His core strength is building web and mobile applications, especially with Angular, Cordova, and enjoys working with web technologies. Now, without further ado, let's get going. Over to you, Suman.
Thank you, Pranshu. Uh, uh, Thank you for nice introduction. Uh, a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining this webinar. Hope you're all staying safe and secure in wherever the place you are there. Uh, I think without spending a lot of time, I'll be getting started with the agenda. Uh, so, as the topic talks about anatomy of a feature phones and apps. So the agenda covers around that area specifically. So agenda is briefly some 8 points. So we talk about what qualifies for a feature phone. I'll cover that aspect of it. Uh, then relevance of feature phones, how they are relevant in the current world, current situation. Then the relevance of apps in the feature phones. That means when we talk about relevance of feature phones, then the relevance of apps in the feature phones. Then Subbu will be covering the tech stack that we use and what kind of app development process that we need to follow. And he covers certain human factors because feature phones are different from smartphones. So what kind of human factors we need to consider. Then he talks about the different options that are available for app distribution. Then finally, I'll be covering the summary part of it. Okay. So yeah, let's get started. Okay. So what qualifies for a feature phone? When we hear about a feature phone, we ask a question: What is this? So what qualifies for a feature phone? Is it a standard phone? Is it a smartphone or in between? So those kind of questions we come to us. Okay. So I'm trying to put a clear demarcation: what qualifies for a standard phone, feature phone, and smartphone. So if you take up standard features that we expect from the phone, so phone call, the facility is there in standard phone and feature phone as well as smartphone. Messaging is also there. Physical key, it is available in standard phones and available in feature phones as well. Smartphones will not have any physical uh, key. Then Wi-Fi support. So standard phones does not have any Wi-Fi support, but feature phones do have, and smartphones anyway have. Okay. So touch enable. So standard phones does not have any touch. Feature phones also does not have touch, but some cases, some of the feature phones are also having touch enable functionality. their percentage very very less. So that's why I'm not talking about that explicitly. Then smartphones anyway have the feature phone. Okay. Affordability in terms of cost. Um, I think when we see from the relative terms, like people, most of the people in this floor, in this meeting, they may have smartphones already with them. So from their perspective, most of the phones are affordable, even smartphones are also affordable. But when we look for the people living in the third world countries, or when we are looking for the people the below lower middle class, the feature phones are affordable, but not really the smartphones. Okay. The long battery life, the standard phones do provide the long battery life, and the feature phones do provide a long battery life. But smartphones need, as they do a lot of computation, smartphones need a lot of battery. So battery life is less. And the external app installation, that means in a phone, can I install some external app? A standard phones, strict no, and feature phones, yes, and smartphones, yes. Okay. So if you see this, the here the feature phone is having certain features of a smartphone and certain features of a standard phone. It comes with a mid variant between a standard phone and a smartphone. Okay. So to ask a question, to answer a question for ourselves, yeah, it has certain features of smartphone, certain features of standard phone. That's called a feature phone. Okay. Okay. So now the relevance of feature phones. Okay. So I took a map, the overall world map, to indicate the penetration of the feature phones. I did not cover about standard phones because their usage is there, but the feature phones are kind of replacing most of the standard phones. Okay. If you see this countries, most of the countries in African continent, even I see the entire African content is that, but I'm having the feature phones, and part of India, and some of the South American countries, or most of the South American countries, are heavy on the feature phones. Okay, if you see a certain pattern around it, so the most of the underdeveloped countries or third world countries are having the higher usage of the feature phones. Okay, so you'll come to know about why that is happening in the next slide. Okay. Uh, See why the third world countries are having most of the feature phones. Why? So the question, when we ask a question, what fueled the growth of feature phones, right? So there are multiple factors that led to the growth of these feature phones. Okay. So first one is the social media. Okay. So let's take an example of Facebook. Okay. So by the time 2018, 17, 17, 18, or 18, 19, so Facebook kind of realized that whoever is having a smartphone, assume that 1 billion customers having a smartphone, and all of them, maybe 80%, 90% of them have the Facebook access. So they were able to access the Facebook. That means they were able to acquire 80 to 90% of the customers who are having a smartphone. Okay. So now beyond that, they cannot penetrate. Maybe the remaining 10% people, they decide not to use Facebook. Even if you provide a better phone also, they won't use the Facebook. Now, now that they have reached the market saturation. So how do I capture more and more market? So in total 6.5 billion people, so I should be able to capture, how do I capture next 1 billion customers for me as a company? So similarly, Facebook and other companies started thinking about it. So that's where the saturation of an existing market, they want to go and find the new markets. Okay, that's where this feature phone started growing. Okay. That means they want to take their product into the hands of next 1 billion customers through an affordable way. Okay. The next important aspect, the thing that got changed rapidly, all of us earlier, maybe till 2015, maybe 14, the phones, their primary job was to provide a facility to make a call and receive the message. And the internet, providing the internet facility is not a primary job. Okay, it's not a mandatory need for the telecom companies. Okay, they do provide the internet, but through other channel. That means they install a broadband for you, they install a lease line for you, but providing internet option through phone became an important aspect, and many telecom companies took that route to kill their competition, and they acquired a lot of customers uh, through by providing internet as a facility. Okay. So the competition in telecom also happened that, okay, how do I acquire more and more customers? They've started offering internet facility, that means data facility in the telecom service. So that is also one of the driving factor. A third important driving factor is that the per capita expenditure. That means not a lot of people are able to afford smartphones, even though they appear like they are cheaper, but they are appearing cheaper from the parity from the income that we generate. But a lot of people are not in a position to afford the smartphones at. Okay, so, but still, companies are looking for market there. At the same time, people are also looking for some kind of service. How do we get this kind of service? How can I use a Facebook? How can I make an order through my my feature phone? Okay, my maybe relatively cheaper phone, but I need a facilities as well. Okay. Then fourth important aspect happened is the technology advancement. Okay, so till 2017, like that, there were no credible operating systems primarily targeted for the feature phones. So the technologies got advanced, certain things were implemented. KaiOS is an important aspect that the KaiOS came into a market with the standard. They saying that, okay, we are the operating system targeted for the feature phones. Okay, so yeah, rest of the topic is also very mainly focused on the KaiOS. So the technology advancement also enabled the fuel the growth of the feature phones. Okay, so these four factors combined together uh, led to the growth of the feature phones. As I was mentioning, that means the customers are in the search of that, in the path of acquiring next 1 billion customers. Every company, biggies, may not, maybe a Facebook, maybe Amazon. Amazon will be very happy that if you're able to order your product from their feature phone, because they need order. They need you need to click on that button to get an order. That means he is a new customer. So every company, every biggie company, like they're trying to acquire new customer base. So that's what the competition is all about here. Okay, but you see the chronology of events, it is happening by design, but it is not happening ad hocly. Okay, if you see the sequence of event, so 2017, KaiOS signed a partnership deals with biggies like Google, Facebook, Twitter, AT&T, even America's Nextel, Sprint. So they all the they made a deal. That means whoever is manufacturing phones, whoever is into the business of telecom, so KaiOS signed up a deal. Okay. Then in 2018, an important shift happened that Reliance bought directly a stake. So 2017 they just had a partnership deal, but 2018 Reliance bought Indian conglomerate. Reliance bought a stake in KaiOS with an intention that all their Geo phones will have the KaiOS as their operating system. So they were able to visualize that, okay, we will be able to penetrate into this market with the help of KaiOS. That's why they bought a stake in KaiOS, and all the Geo phones they do have KaiOS as their operating system now. Then 2019, KaiOS made a deal with a company called Techno. The Techno is primarily a manufacturer, phone manufacturer and telecom service provider, primarily targeted in the African continent. So that means they want to sell a lot of feature phones in African continent, because these are the areas where people are not able to buy a lot of smartphones. That's why we are not able to get into their market. Okay. Then interestingly, you see that in 2020, Facebook bought a stake in Geo. That means every Geo phone that Reliance was able to sell, they are adding a new customer to the Facebook as well. That means if you buy a Geo phone, automatically Facebook will be coming as a standard app that is already installed. Okay. Similarly, more and more companies may tie up with Geo so that the moment you buy a phone, their app is already available as a standard app so that you automatically become a customer for them. Okay. So that's what the right now the competition is at the level of how do I acquire 1 more billion new internet customers so that I'll be able to sell my services more. Now the question comes that okay, now we talked about why feature phone, right? Now a question comes that do we need to develop apps in feature phones? Why do we need to develop? What is the relevance of developing apps in feature phones? Okay, assume that you are a product owner or you are having certain product that is doing a decent job in the web technologies, or you have customers who are using their web application or a smartphone app. Now you also have a need of acquiring more and more customers, so you need to diversify your customer base. So that's where this feature phone apps comes into picture. If you make your app available in the feature phones, that means you have more customers. Your reach for the customers will increase. Okay. Second is the market penetration. That means you might not have penetrated your services into certain market because of some logistical issues, maybe lack of internet or lack of people are not able to afford the vehicle, in this case a phone, to use your service. And then if you provide a feature phone app, you'll be able to penetrate into that market quickly. The third important aspect is the value addition. Okay, so this value addition, I take an example of let's say uh, I can say the offline apps. That means people might be hearing about app should work on the offline as well. That means even the internet is not there, app should do certain functionality, but when internet is there, the data should be synced later. Okay, so that is an important feature. That means when you start adding the value addition, so what happens if you see that circle? So if there is at least a basic phone available with on and off internet, then you start using the app. As you start using the app, you start demanding more internet. That means, okay, I need internet. As internet is not working, I'm not able to do my activity. So you start demanding internet. Then internet will come. That means fuel the growth for internet. As more and more internet availability is there, then it fuels the growth of apps usage. So it in turn growth adds the growth for the overall your market penetration. Okay, so it creates a good cycle, a good upward mobility cycle gets created in your market. So that's where the value addition, you start adding one value, it demands more services, you give those services, then your services will also increase, reachability of your services will also increase. Okay, so it provides definitely a value addition to the customer, uh, so that you'll be able to acquire those customers quickly. Okay, so that's the relevance. That means if someone asks a question that do we need to develop my app as for the feature phone, the answer is yes, because it should be able to reach out to the uh, wider audience. Okay, with this I'm done with a high level view in terms of what is a feature phone, and what is the relevance of feature phones, and why what is the relevance of developing apps in feature phones. Now I'll hand over to Subbu, so that he will cover you with the topics in terms of a technology stack, uh, uh, the remaining stuff in terms of development, deployment, all of that stuff. Hand over to you, Subbu.
Thank you, Suman, for sharing your views about the history of the feature phones as well as the need of the feature phones. Let me try to describe about the development process. Before, sorry, before we jump into the development process, let us understand about the architecture of the KaiOS device. Actually, the KaiOS product is decoupled into the two components, whereas they are app profile and the core. App profile consists a list of web apps which allows you to perform user interaction functions. That means all the web apps which are installed are available in the mobile device. They all are fall under the app profile category. The second one is the core, which takes care about the actual running runtime environment, like a GCO runtime engine, and the hardware adoption layer, and some of the supporting libraries. This takes care about the complete native part. And if you look at the architecture diagram, there is an interface called Web APIs. Actually, Web APIs plays a role where it allows you to communicate the web applications to the native functions. Let us see the actual development part. The development part, the moment we start thinking about the any new technology or any new framework, as a developer, the first thing comes into our mind: what is the tech stack, and how can we set the development environment? Then the moment we start thinking about the tech stack, then we will lot of questions comes into our mind. Do I need to learn any new framework, or do I need to learn any new language? How much time it takes? Can I adapt to the new environment, kind of thing? But here, the as part of the KaiOS development process, you don't need to worry about all these questions, because KaiOS apps are based on web technologies like HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And coming to that HTML, um, yes, you know that HTML helps us to build the blocks of the web page, and CSS helps us to build the design blocks of the web page, and the JavaScript helps us to logical blocks of the web page. In terms of the JavaScript, you don't need to strict to yourself to use the plain JavaScript, and you can start using, you can integrate your favorite JavaScript framework like Angular, React JS, or Vue.js, or whatever it may be. But the KaiOS team is suggesting you to use the lightweight JavaScript framework like React. Then coming to the Firefox, then what is the need of the Firefox? As we have already seen it in the architectural diagram, the KaiOS devices are running in the Gecko runtime environment. And this Gecko runtime environment is associated with the SpiderMonkey JavaScript engine, and those are associated with the Firefox. Then what is the need of the Web IDE? Web IDE plays a major role in terms of the overall KaiOS development process, which helps you to do the required testing and to ensure the overall functionality of the KaiOS app. Firefox. How to do the installation of the Firefox. For this one, we have a dependency with the Firefox version. Even though we have even though we have a latest version in the market, to support this one, we have to install the Firefox version less than or equal to 59. And if you get any query like how can I get the older versions of the Firefox, then you can refer the Mozilla FTP, there where you can get the all the versions of the Firefox libraries. And once you download the required version, then you can unpack that one, and you can start doing the installation. Actually, this is available for the most of the platform like Windows and Mac OS, and but here I'm going to cover as part of the Linux, which works for the most of the people. Once we download the required Firefox version, you can unpack the packages, and you can create the short link or shortcut which can facilitate the program execution. Then once the Firefox installation is done, then we need to set the Web IDE. As we discussed, Web IDE helps you to ensure the functionality of the application, to test the app. What you need to do in the sense to set the required web IDE, we need to install the Android ADB drivers. Android ADB drivers which helps you to communicate the physical device and the desktop. And we need to install even the Android fast boot, and which helps you to write the data from the desktop to the physical device. Then you need to do the settings for the USB access. Once we are done with that command as well, then you can type the lsusb command, which gives you the vendor ID of the corresponding physical device. Vendor ID is the unique one for each and every feature phone, which will be useful for to do the required settings with the Android ADB drivers. The next thing, once we have the vendor ID, what you need to do, you need to open the Android rules file, and you need to add that one to the that file. Here is the sample how we can add that vendor ID to the Android rules file. Once we are done with that one, we need to add this same vendor ID to the one more file, need to be created in the root directory. That is adb underscore esp.ini. This time, how we need to add in the sense, this time we need to add hexadecimal vendor ID to the file. Then here you can see the actual vendor ID is 22B8, but we are adding that one as a 0x22B8. Then once we are done with that one, to get this vendor ID and all the stuff, what we need to do in the sense, we need to plug our physical device to the desktop. Then only we will get the vendor ID from the device and all the stuff. Once we are done with that one, then we can ensure with the help of ADB devices, whether you can do the testing with the physical device or not. If you run the ADB devices and that device, if the device is detected as part of the USB devices list, then everything is good. If you don't see that devices in this list, then still there is something which needs to be configured. This time we need to configure that one as part of the physical device. Uh, Physical device. What we need to do in the sense, we need to go to the settings, then device, then developer. Then here is the place where we need to enable the debugger ADB and dev tools. Now once you set this one, now you can run the same command adb devices to ensure your device is connected or not. Then this time you should be able to see that your device as part of the USB devices list. Then let me try to describe about the a simulator. Simulator in the sense, once we are done with the web IDE, then here we will get the simulator. We can start playing with the simulator. Simulator helps you to do the required testing without having the physical device as well. We will see more about the physical with the physical device testing and without having the physical device testing as part of the coding part. But the moment once we are done with the tech stack finalization and the development environment setup, as a developer, the first thing comes into the mind: how can I create the Hello World app? This simulator even helps you to create the Hello World app. As you can see at the left side panel, if you click on the new app, then it allows you to select some of the options of the app. It is providing even the Hello World template. That means if you select that Hello World template and click on OK button, then automatically it creates a sample Hello World application for you. And here is the list of files. If you look at there, then you can see some of the files like icons, app.js, index.html, and manifest.web app. And manifest.web app plays a major role. We will discuss further. The second thing is the index.html, which is the root of the application, as we know that. And the second thing, then at the header bar level, you can see the play icon. Once the corresponding application is opened, then you can click on the play button. If you click on the play button, automatically corresponding application will be rendered on the simulator. The simulator is the one which allows you to render your application. Then here is the place where we see the hello world. Then once the application is up and running, then then if you look at the top bar level, there is a wrench icon which helps you to debug your application. That means if you click on the wrench icon, that enables the inspect and debugger and console and style editor. That means here and there you feel like it is a web application development. You almost forget it. I am doing it for the KaiOS app. So that means if you know if you are a web developer, you are ready to go for the KaiOS app development. Even though you are not a web developer, you can start playing with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with your favorite JavaScript framework. Once we are done with the environment setup, then let us see the human factors which needs to be followed as part of the development process. Before we jump into the coding, let us understand what are the human factors which are being played major role in the coding patterns. Then the soft keys and the basic navigation both are played a major role as part of the app development. And the multiple resolutions, that means anyways, as you know that feature phone supports the portrait mode as well as the landscape mode, and we need to take care about both the modes. Depends on the our app configurations. Soft case, coming to the soft case, actually you know that feature phones are not touch enabled phones. That means whatever user tries to do, they have to do with the keypad only. That means let's take a case. If user wants to fill any one of the form, he has to do all the operations with the keys. Then if you really consider about a web application, then if that web page has a text data which is only display, which is the only read only data, then you don't need to bother about the soft keys. But the moment if you have any kind of registration form, then automatically you expect user to perform some operations. That time use that registration form may have the input elements as well as the drop down elements or date time elements, all the stuff. That means the what user does, the moment user is redirected to the corresponding web page, user starts try to fill the data. So as this is not the touch, as it doesn't support the touch, user has to start moving from the topwards to downwards, from the top to downwards. So user, while scrolling the user will be moved to the multiple HTML elements. As you know that web page is a list of HTML elements. Well, even though user looks like user is on top of the HTML element, uh, on top of the HTML element, user cannot type any data into the corresponding HTML element because the cursor is not yet placed in the corresponding element. It is just on top of the element. Now what we need to do, but end user doesn't recognize whether he has to click on the whether he has to click somewhere or not. So these soft keys plays a major role here. The moment user comes on top of any specific element, we have to take a decision and we have to guide the corresponding user to select or insert or click here, kind of thing. So that means as you see there, that left side key and the central key and the right side key, these are associated with the corresponding device hardware keys. With the help of these hardware keys association, we can guide the end user to perform the certain operations. It is not about only input text element, it applies for the every input element which expects some action to be performed by the end user. Like even the drop down, while user moving to the next element, the drop down will be highlighted. Even though drop down is highlighted, until unless the user clicks on that drop down, that drop down won't be open. That's how it works. Then what we need to do in the sense, that means whatever the web page we are implementing, every web page should have the soft key wherever it is required. That doesn't mean it is mandate to have, but it should appear based on the need. And if you look at the right side, here is how we can bind the corresponding elements with the hardware keys. Based on the action performed by the end user, we have to take the corresponding action and so user can have the good user experience. The next thing is the navigation. The navigation thing in the navigation, how the navigation plays a major role. Yeah, again I am repeating that as it is the as it doesn't as it doesn't support the touch, the only way to perform, the only way to move from the left side to right side or top to bottom, only through keys. Then here is the place where d-pad navigation helps us in the right direction. That means what we need to do to enable the d-pad navigation. We don't need to do much things, but what we have to do, we need to do the required configuration in the manifest.webf file, which is we need to specify cursor true. Automatically, the moment we do this configuration in the manifest.webf file, I know that we are hearing the manifest.webf file multiple times. We will go through in detail in the next session, in the next slide. Next slide. Now, once it is enabled, that cursor icon can be that cursor icon will be visible to the end user. So based on that cursor icon, user can start moving from the top to bottom or bottom to top and left to right and right to left kind of thing. And user can start moving from one place to another place. Not only about the D-pad navigation, whatever the hardware keys we see in the keypad, most of the keys we can utilize based on the need of the application. And the next topic is multiple resolution. Multiple resolution in the sense, whenever we implement any application, we need to target the, we need to build the UI components by targeting certain resolutions. Right now, the KaiOS products are two to supports two resolutions. They are portrait 240 by 320, and for the landscape devices 320 to 240. Even as we know that the KaiOS is not supporting any specific or official Angular like Angular material, they are suggesting to take care about take care about the implementation process by by utilizing the media queries. They are suggesting media queries is the best solution to handle the portrait devices and landscape devices. Let us jump into the coding part. The moment we start thinking about the coding, the first thing comes into our mind: how can I build the UI component which can work for the KaiOS? KaiOS, and how can I implement the interface elements which can be approved by the KaiOS store as well. The second thing is the navigation. Let's take a case: if we start building the application, then we should take care about the navigation from one place to another place and one component to another component. Then the typography. Then typography helps us to follow certain rules which will be which will be which will be give the good reading experience to the end user. The fourth one is the testing and the debugging. Testing will help us to ensure the functionality of the corresponding app, and debugging help us to triage the errors. UI component. UI component, and here is the sample UI component. As we have already described that we have to follow some certain guidelines and certain guidelines we need to follow at the time of building the UI component. You can see that there is a header which starts from the top, and next to the header we have a tab layout. After that we have the list items. There are we are displaying the some list of items. Even though you see one of the item as a selected, that doesn't mean that item is selected. That item is ready to be selected. The if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see some soft keys which are suggesting to have the select. Then uh, then if you look at the right side, they are suggesting to have they are suggesting to have some standards which needs to be followed by at the time of implementing any component. Then they have given some specific standards, space and all the stuff we need to follow as per the basic guidelines. Then the navigation. If you try to recall the d-pad navigation which we have described in the human factors of the iOS apps, then there is a d-pad navigation which helps us to move from the top to bottom or bottom to top and left to right and right to left kind of thing. Then here is how here we can see how the actual application works in these scenarios. Let's have a look at the first image of the screen. Then what the user is doing, in the sense user is um, moving downwards. Once the user is moved to the bottom of the screen, that doesn't mean user has to move from the bottom to top again. The moment user reached the bottom, the user should see the next item as a topmost item in the screen. That's how we need to implement to support the better navigation. For suppose if you have a grid view, then if you look at the third image of the screen, in this place we have to use the left side navigations and the right side navigation of the d-pad navigation buttons. Then the moment it reaches to the last item of the screen, the way list view comes to the top, again it should come to the first item of the event grid view item. Then only user can can maintain the interest to navigate and use the actual iOS apps. Otherwise user will be frustrated while accessing the iOS apps. Then typography. Typography plays a major role while building any component. They have given some standard guidelines which needs to be strictly followed as part of building any component. If you look at the left side of the image, we have a header and a tab layout and some text displayed and all this stuff. Based on the need and based on the intention of the text, we need to choose the corresponding typography which they are suggesting. You can look at the right side how they are suggesting and what type of pixels and font sizes or font families they are suggesting to use based on the need of the web page and based on the place where we are placing the corresponding text item. Here is the sample coding of the here is the sample code to build a small screen uh, which allows you to add the items as a to-do list. Here we have taken P-React as a JavaScript framework, and we have added some HTML elements in the JavaScript code. It has a header section as well as it has the input element. Then it has the list of to-do elements. Then if you look at the last element, that is the soft key. That soft key has some conditions. That means if you look at the soft key attribute, that is a center attribute that has element type checking. What it is doing, in the sense, the moment user plays the element into the cursor into the corresponding input element, then it suggests soft through corresponding a label like insert, you can see at the right side. Then what it helps, in the sense, so the moment user places the cursor and type the text, user can understand, yes, I have to click on this button, so this can be added to the corresponding list. So far we targeted to build our own UI components by following the iOS standards. But here is the good news for you. Even there is no official UI library or somewhat like providing by other frameworks, but still KaiOS is suggesting to use the library from the Adrian Machado. This library, this Kai UI library, is developed by following all the guidelines which are provided by the KaiOS. So you can consider this one as a UI library. Then the last one but not least, this one plays a major role for the uh, app testing. App testing. Then how we can do the testing with the iOS devices, in the sense there are two ways. The first one is the actual device, then the second one is the simulator. Then what is the difference between the actual device and the simulator? We have in the at the time of setting the web IDE, we have already seen how the simulator works. Now let us see about the actual device. What you need to do, in the sense, you need to plug your actual device feature phone to the desktop. Then once you plug that actual device to the desktop, you need to run this command to establish a connection between your actual device and the desktop. Once you establish a connection between the actual device and the desktop, you can click on the remote runtime. If you look at the left side image of the screen, then there is an option selected remote runtime. If you click there, automatically it asks you to enter the IP address and the port number where your app is being run. Once you enter that one, then that you can click on the open package. Then automatically you can select the folder which you want to run in the physical device. Then once you select that one, you can click on the play button. Once you click on the play button, then that app will run in your actual device. Then that wrench icon will be enabled. As you know that once the wrench icon is enabled, that you can start consider that one as a web application, and you can inspect and console and debug your style editor. Whatever you want, you can do it. You can do all the stuff same like a web application. The thing is, what you need to remember here, the changes whatever you do here, they won't be persistent, same like a web application. Because we are doing the changes in the runtime, we have to copy paste into the persistent. If you make the changes in the source code as well, then what you need to do, if you look at the screen, at the wrench icon, you can see some refresh icon. That the refresh icon, in the sense, you need to click on refresh icon, which reloads the content from even the physical device. Let us see about the different options for the app distribution. App distribution, in the sense, in how many ways we can distribute the app to the respective store. Then here are two ways. One is the packaged app, the second one is the hosted app. Then you may get the question, then what is the difference between the packaged app and the hosted app? Packaged app is nothing but a native app. It delivers most of its content from the physical device itself. And hosted app is nothing but a web app. It delivers the content from web server. As part of the packaged app, you bundle all the files like assets and manifested web app file and all the JS files and HTML files. You bundle all of them as a single zip file, and you upload that one to the store. As part of the hosted app, you don't bundle anything. Then you still can up your application as a web server. You just need to configure that manifested web app URL to the corresponding store. Then you may get a question, what is the difference between the packaged app and the hosted app? What are the advantages I will gain as part of the packaged app? Then if you try to recall our architecture diagram, there is an interface between the web app profile as well as the core section. That interface is web apis. Web apis plays a major role where it allows you to communicate with the native things. The native things like camera, contacts, battery, and other areas. So if you want to communicate and if you want to build a application where you want to perform some actions with the native things, then you have to go ahead with the packaged app. Otherwise, still you can go ahead with the hosted app. Then how we can bundle the things in the sense, what we need to do to push it to the corresponding stores, we need to bundle the things for the packaged app, that is manifested web app file and build files. What are the build files we generated as part of the application, and the image and assets. While bundling, we need to consider that we have to minify all these files, because we are pushing this one to the KaiOS store, and KaiOS store is targeting to the feature phones which has a less memory as part of the primary memory as well as the secondary memory as well. So by considering those phones, what we need to do, we have to optimize as much as possible to reduce the size of our app zip file. The second one is the manifested web app URL for the hosted apps. Here we don't need to specify anything. We just need to specify about the manifested web app URL which is available, which is being served through web server. So far we heard so many times about the manifested web app file. So how it plays the major role as part of the KaiOS apps. Then this is the time where we need to really look for the manifested web app file. Then manifested web app file tells about your app type, and it contains the complete information about your application, your app. Then if you look at the image in the screen, then it has the information like version and what is the name and what is the description of that app, and icons which needs to be utilized as part of the app for the both the resolutions and the developer things. And you can even specify the multiple locales, and even you can specify the default locale, and you can specify the categories. That means if you are already familiar with the app publishing process, you might have seen all these steps are being done at the level of store, respective stores. But here what we need to do, we need to fill all these details in the manifested web app file to describe about the app as well as the to differentiate the types of the apps. And the second one is the launch path. Launch path in the sense, as we know that this is the root of the application where the application will start booting up the application. Then we here we can specify about the type as well. Type in the sense, generally there are three types. One is the certified, anyways they are the pre-built-in apps. The second one is the privileged app. The third one is the web app, web type. Then here we need to understand what is privileged and the web. Then the way we have seen that we can publish the app to the stores in two ways. One is hosted as well as the second and the package. We need to use the privileged type for the packaged app, and we need to use web for the hosted app. That means system iOS system will understand whether it is the hosted app, the packaged app, and the here permissions. The permissions in the sense, here we need to specify what are the web APIs your app is going to utilize. So if you don't specify here and still you are expecting to use, then you cannot. Your app may not get approved by the KaiOS team. Then even you can enable the full screen by specifying a simple property. Then if you don't follow all these setup rules and guidelines is, and if you don't to prepare the manifested web app file in the proper format. Let's take a case. If you don't specify the type, or if you don't specify the permissions, even though you are using some of the permissions, you try to consume some of the permissions, all these type of things considered as a violation of the rules, and those apps won't be approved as part of the KaiOS process. Once we have either a web server which can serve the manifested web app URL to serve that one as a hosted app, or you have the zip file which can be deployed as a hosted app. This is the time where you can publish your app. You can go to the publishing portal, and you can log in into the system, and you can fill the required details, and you can make that your app is enabled to the um, outs enter world. Uh, I'm done with the development aspects, and over to you, Suman, to help us with the summary.
Thank you, Subbu. Yeah, I'll have quickly conclude the summary. I see analogy here, like in 2008, maybe in the initial release was in 2007, but 2008 onwards, like Android came in, and that fueled the growth of smartphones, and that led to like 1 billion customers started. New market was created altogether, not just for the smartphones, but a lot of services. A new market was automatically created. In 2010, Kai OS started for the feature phones. I think it is in the path of acquiring next 1 billion potential customers. I would recommend all of you to make, if you are a product owner, see to make your product available as a feature phone app as well, so that we'll be able to reach out to the customers. If you're a developer, start getting in and start developing some feature phone apps, so that your hands you start becoming familiarized with this territory. So yeah, I see the feature phones are having a lot of potential, and I think the world is going to reap the benefits out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suman, and thank you, Subbu. If you have any questions, we still do have some time, so you can put them in the Q&A box. Suman and Subbu would be more than glad to answer them. Right. Hi, Kushal. If you can just put in your question, we'll be able to respond to that. Okay. Right. We have a question from Vishwanath. Meanwhile, do you develop apps? We most definitely develop web and mobile apps. If you could be a bit more specific with your question. We're still waiting for Kushal's question. Right, I'll see if I can enable you. Subbu, can you enable Kushal if he could, if you can just click on his name and allow him to speak, probably that would be easier.
Yes, Vishwanath, the answer for your question is yes, yes, we do help customers in developing the feature phone based apps.
We also have a question from an anonymous attendee. If you upload an app to feature phone, will it come as default app?
If you
No,
say, yeah, go ahead. Subbu. Sorry.
Will it come as a default app in the sense, as we have already described that there are three types of apps. One is certified app, and the second one is privileged app. The third one is the web app. All the default apps, pre-built apps will be considered as a certified apps. Whatever the apps we deliver to the store, they will be treated as a third-party apps, and that means they are not the default apps, but still you can download from the store the way we do it for the smartphones.
Uh, Subbu, if you can enable Kushal to speak. Okay, we have another. Is KaiOS for penetration of feature phone specifically where Geo is concentrating?
If the question is the KISS for penetration of feature on specific reason. If the question is that is KOI OS is fueling the growth of feature phones, yes, it is definitely acting as a vehicle, and primarily through Geo in India, uh, uh, phones are like feature phones are really increasing. But in other markets, like in African market, other areas, there are different companies who are promoting, who are distributing a lot of KOI phones.
Are these apps compatible with smartphones? Compatible with smartphones in the sense, it's again depends on how we build the apps. As we have already described that KaiWeb's apps are based on web technologies. That means wherever you want to build any hybrid mobile application, then you can utilize the code base of this one to the code base to the there as well. But you see that one there are some certain extra activities which needs to be done as part of the KaiOS development, like soft keys and D-pad navigations and all the stuff here and there. You can use the same thing for both the places, but you need to take care about the KaiOS apps.
A good Kushal, this is a good question. What happens if future manufacturers made available for of smartphones? Then the say if we are able to bring down the cost of the smartphones, then automatically the feature phone cost will further come down. Okay, so there will be some set of customers still you'll be able to aim it. So yeah, if let's say if, smartphones are coming at $3,000, then feature phones will come at $500. If smartphones comes to $1,000, then feature phones will come to $250 like that. So still, I see that the possibility that you can target more and more audience. Uh,
Right, I think we have a follow-up question from him. In terms of e-waste, feature phones use more than smartphones, in my opinion.
are you saying that uh, feature phones generate more e-waste compared to smartphones? I'm not sure, Kushal. I've not investigated to a level of which phone generates more e-waste.
Right. The last question for the day. Any app developed in smartphones, what is the effort needed for re-engineering to KaiOS?
Uh, that again depends on the tech stack what you have chosen as part of the smartphone development. For suppose if you have chosen some hybrid, if you build some hybrid application as a mobile app for the smartphone, but so in that case we can consider there is a less amount of time based on the application weight. And if you build that smartphone app with the help of some native native technologies like Android or for iOS Objective C, definitely we have to switch to the web technologies to support the iOS app.
Right. So before we sign, thanks for that, Subbu. Before we sign off for the day, I wanted everyone to know that we are having an interesting lineup of webinars this month. Next, we have one on Flutter's stateful widgets. The following week, we have one on augmented reality. So I'll be sending invites to all of you as well as the recording of this session. Until next time, folks, thank you everyone once again. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Subbu and Suman.
Thank you all.
Thank you.